what's up, babies? Here we are. I'm finally live, and I'm finally actually here. I got everything all set up. Sorry about the delay. Getting started today. Work. We're entering a busy season in work, and what that means is we're entering a season where now that the weather's starting to get kind of nice, every a-hole and their brother is deciding to do every project that they can imagine, which means they all need something from me. And most of it is just mundane stuff that is more time consuming than it is important, but hey, you know, here we are. It's all part of earning a paycheck. So I appreciate the patience, and I'm glad you guys are here. How's it going, Z-Bean? Good to see you. Good to see you. So, all right, with all that and all of my gripes. Who am I kidding? That's not all my gripes. I'll gripe about it until the day I die. But with that subset of gripes taken care of, let's just get into it, man. I want to do some writing. I just want to do some writing, man. I was out of town all weekend. I didn't really get the chance to do a whole lot of writing. Hold on, this is not at all what we're gonna work on. Let me get us to the right page. But yeah, I didn't get the chance to really do like any writing this past weekend, which is it's fine. I did do a lot of fun stuff, hanging out with family and visiting family and stuff this weekend. So, you know, I can't complain or anything like that. But yeah, no, I really want to I want to be creative today. You know, I want to do that. I haven't done that in the days sneak away from you because like the last time I really did any writing was Friday, and at this point in time, here we are. It's Tuesday, right? So it's already been like half a week. And that's a long time for me to go without doing creative stuff. So I'm glad to be here doing it. Sidekick feature? I've heard something about it. I've never had anyone utilize it before. I've never had anyone utilize sidekicks before. It's so I don't really know much about it. I mean, just the idea of it is kind of interesting. Let's see. I have in mind what I want to work on today. And I think actually sticking to our atlas will be a good place to do it. And I want to actually build this a little bit here. So we've got this set up, which this is eventually going to be our do I want to put this here? We could put it in history. I don't know. I feel like Atlas is where it belongs. What I want to do is I want to just sort of explore the history of this place. And I guess we could do it all here, and we could just like fill out everything that's up in this top part. But I want to start thinking a little bit about the history and like what this place that our players are eventually going to end up at. Right, like our players are eventually going to end up here is the idea. That's like the whole point of this campaign that we're working on. And so I want to work on this because I feel like it's going to be helpful, especially as we're getting towards like the second half of the campaign as we're writing it, right? We're getting deeper and deeper into the campaign. And I feel like it's going to be really helpful if we have a really clear understanding of what this is, because players are going to start asking more and more questions about this place. Like they're trying to find all of this stuff to get in, like all these keys and everything to be able to get into this place. And I think it's inevitable that they're going to start asking questions about it. And I actually want them to do that. I want them to be curious about this because I want it to eventually not be such a clear, cut and dry thing for them. Like whether they should just hand this place over to the dragon, you know, or if they should find a way to try and like keep it for themselves. It's kind of like I want to try and get. And like I want them to eventually have an idea, and I have a basic idea of what I want this place to be, but I feel like if we have like a deeper, richer history that we can start sort of building up and really sort of build this place up to be a lot bigger and a lot more important than what we have so far, it'll be a lot easier to know different bits of information and stuff that we can sort of, you know, drip feed our players as they go. So I want to. This is what I want to work on today. This is my goal today: is to try and just have a better understanding of this Hall of Wisdom, because it is our final destination. Which like is a tough phrase to say because the movie franchise kind of created a pretty clear pretty clear connotation about what that phrase means, but I don't know. Maybe it will be like a Final Destination form of Final Destination. I don't know. Okay, what do you got for me? You talking about sidekicks here? As NPCs follow the party, level with the party, and have a class themselves. Or class line, then use bonus action, spell casters. Okay, all right, yeah. So it sounds kind of just like being able to have like it's just a system that allows them to have like minions and wards and stuff. Just interesting. It's an interesting idea. I feel like that set of rules a lot of times, like I know for my group we're kind of using a system like that. Not exactly rules as written, but I've like with my players in the campaign that I'm running for them, I kind of have given them like a sidekick. I gave them basically a pet, like I not basically, I did. I gave them a pet lion that as they level up, the lion levels up too, just to make his attacks more powerful because they're a smaller group and they don't really have a tank. They wanted to get creative and fun with their classes, and they just didn't have a tank. So they were a very glass cannon type of place, and that was, if I was going to not like murder them, especially because they were all new players, if I was going to not murder them immediately in like the first few sessions, I needed them to have something that could feasibly take some of the heat off of them. So I kind of gave them that, and they got attached to it, and so we and so they kind of still, not kind of, they flat out do still have their pet lion, named Awesome because he's awesome. God, I actually really enjoy that. Enjoy their pet lion, because they've been really responsible with him too. Like they don't try and cheese the system too much and like use him as like a sacrificial lamb or fodder or anything like that. They like treat him as an actual party member, and they keep him healed and stuff. And if there's situations where a lion just couldn't follow them wherever they're going for any reason or another, they're actually really good about like leaving him behind, which really works. Like I can't say enough. I don't know if any of them are watching right now, but like I'll just say it to my dudes out there. Maybe they'll watch the VOD of this one of these days, but I'll just say it to my dudes. Like they're a freaking awesome group. Like they are so into the role play, and they are like the perfect balance of trying to be flexible and creative with stuff, but accepting that there are some things that just don't work. And like they're just an awesome group. I love my group. They're cool dudes. Y'all are jealous, whether you realize it or not. Whether you realize it or not. Possible to play as a sidekick. Those with sidekicks, and the sidekick can only be between CR rank 0 to 1/2. Huh. I'm just trying to understand. I'm just trying to think about who would want to be a sidekick. I guess if there's a player who like wouldn't be able to join every session for any given reason, for one reason or another, I guess I could see someone choosing to be a sidekick, or like working with a DM to create a sidekick like character that is like there sometimes but not there other times. I could see that. I feel like a sidekick would be a really good way to have like a DM PC if you needed a situation to help beef up a smaller party. Like if you have just like, you know, a party with an infrequent player, or just like a small party of only 3 people or whatever, and you want to give them some more creative, interesting challenges, like you could use a sidekick as a DM PC. But yeah, it'd be interesting if someone like chose to be a sidekick. I don't know, maybe if there was someone who's only like half invested or something like that. I don't know, but then just don't have them at your table. But yeah, having a hard time to making it to sessions. That would make sense. I'll buy that. I'll buy that explanation. I'll buy that one. Maybe only at a discount though. But yeah, so okay, Hall of Wisdom. This place. Intended player level. I mean, I guess we can kind of fill this up. Level 10. Like this is meant to be for a level 10 group when they get there. Number of room sets. I'm not gonna worry about this stuff. Worry about that right now. These are more mechanical for when we actually turn it into a dungeon. I don't know that I really want to worry about that right now. Near City is our Troy Cladney. Is that how I spelled it? Oh boy, it's been a while since I've had to spell this one. Troy Clad, maybe like that. I don't remember how I spelled this sucker. There it is. I guess I've been spelling it 2 ways. I love that word finally accepted that like they could, like the Microsoft Office includes now a feature where if you spell something that isn't a word enough, it'll just automatically add it to the dictionary. I love that it does that. I love that it does that. It's so handy when I'm making up nonsensical fantasy or sci-fi names and stuff. It's such a good feature. Such a good feature. Current overlord. I don't know. We'll figure that one out. We might actually get down to that one once we kind of get to the history of this a little bit here. But I really want to understand this place better, because I have some vague ideas about like why it's there and what it was made for and all that kind of stuff, but I never have really fleshed it out. And I just feel like that as we're going along in this campaign, it's going to be nice to be able to, like I say, sort of drip feed our players a little bit more information about this place, because I want it, like I say, I really want this to be a place that ultimately it isn't 100% clear whether or not it's whether it's the right decision to just like hand access to this place off to the dragon, like is kind of the game plan originally. You know, I don't know yeah, I don't know exactly what's going on with this place. But that's the beauty of homebrew. We can kind of figure it out. That's what I'm going for. I want to figure this place out. I want to figure this Hall of Wisdom out. I know home of the mirror. We'll call it the Mirror of Facts for now. I might come up with a more poetic name. But like the part that I do know about this thing is that it has this mirror in it, and the point of the mirror is that you can look back on it, and if you know the time and place you want to look at, it will show you like it'll basically show you like a montage of sorts of what happened and what were the results of it. The idea is that this mirror was sort of magically created to be used as a way for councils and leaders to make informed decisions. Like if there's someone who's wondering like, you know, like, oh, should I go to war with this country? Or, you know, should I do this, that, or the other thing? You know, these big, giant things, like someone could go there, and if they know, like, well, let's see what has always been the result of other decisions to do similar things, the idea was that you could use that as a way to, like, find unbiased, because it will just magically show you what happened. It won't be anyone's telling of it, is the idea of this item. And that's why the dragon wants it. The dragon wants to have the wisdom to be able to properly know how to lead and manage its territory, its turf, and all that kind of stuff. So I know it's gonna have that there. And so I think the history of this Hall of Wisdom is that it was kind of created to explicitly to be the home of this place, or of this mirror. Like it was like and I'm trying to decide whether it was created, like right now I want to know if it was created before or after the mirror. I feel like this place might have been created after. Like someone made the mirror, and then they realized that because of like the power of it, a lot of people would be coveting and wanting this mirror, and then it would turn into this weird irony that like, because like my thought is that it was created by someone who wanted to have a way to convince people to like not go to war, right? Because then you would look at it and you'd be like, oh, there's just a whole lot of destruction and death and horrible things, and then a century later just another war happened, right? So it's like, you know, it never begets anything other than just like changing who's in charge and stuff. But you know, eventually word gets out about this thing, and the irony is that people might fight wars over having this much knowledge and wisdom, right? And so I feel like the Hall of Wisdom was created to protect it more than anything. Play a sidekick with 200 HP at level 1. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's always a loophole. There's always some sort of loophole. That's where the DM comes in, right? And smack down all those crazy ideas. Lay the hammer down. But yeah, so I feel like this was created after the mirror. I'm gonna call this the Mirror of Understanding. I feel like that's a more poetic name for it. But Yeah, I think this mirror too, in and of itself, is kind of like a unique item that is definitely one that was like created with good intentions, but um, ultimately is one that, like, like I don't know. I think it comes from the fact that it's kind of true in life that, yeah, that phrase. I feel like I've talked about it on stream before. That phrase, "Best laid plans of mice and men gang afterly," and all that. Where it's like, you can do something with the best of intentions, but all it takes is, one wrong move or one person with impure intentions to ruin all of that. And so I feel like this mirror definitely fits that, which is why it would want, like, why people would want to create such a protective location around this, such as the Hall of Wisdom, because the Hall of Wisdom is meant to be a place that's like designed to keep ill intended individuals out. And I think part of that is understanding exactly how it was created. But let's start off with just, actually I feel like the history of this starts with the mirror itself. So let's just kind of come up with this, and let's just go ahead and say that like right out, right? So the history of the Hall of Wisdom essentially begins with the creation of the Mirror of Understanding. And actually what I want to do is I'm going to go down to artifacts here. I've had it, like, this is a really old way of holding of like organizing things. I don't know that I want to keep it that way. That needs some workshopping. That'll be a different day, different project for a different day. It's a very old. I haven't created an artifacts page in quite some time. But let's call this Mirror of Understanding. And we'll want to fill this out at some point in time. But let's just for now put a placeholder, so we can copy the link back here to our atlas. And then, boom, Mirror of Understanding. Okay. All right, so we can kind of do that. Should be a party full of sidekicks. Player's choice. Yeah, like that sounds like a Netflix series. It sounds like a Netflix series, The Sidekicks. And it just follows like a group of sidekicks. It would be like a superhero. It'd almost be like a superhero version of what we do in the shadows, right? Where it's like it kind of follows the one guy who's the ward of the one vampire. Like that's, I don't know, that's what my immediate thought of that is. Yeah, exactly. It would just be like such a motley crew of random creatures and stuff. That's solid. That would be amusing. All right, let's see. So the history of the Hall of Wisdom essentially begins with the creation of the Mirror of Understanding. Yeah. So we have this like rough timeline that I use, where I just kind of have the eras of when this planet and this world was kind of created. And I feel like the Mirror of Understanding would have been created. I actually think this would have been created during the Silent Era. So like we have all these different eras. This is the Birth Era. This is where the planet was born and first enlightened beings came to be. Here's a pointless as everything happened before any enlightened race was found. Like this was like pre-recorded history. Mortal Era, time where the elevation of any beings into the time before elevation of any beings into ethereal planes. Magic Era is a time when magic first started gaining prominence, largely due to explosion of ethereal beings. So ethereal beings kind of were the first creatures to really easily tap into the ebbs and flows of magic within this world. The God War Era is basically when all of these ethereal beings started fighting wars over like ethereal territory, essentially. And that place was really, there was a whole lot of infighting, a lot of stuff got messed up, a lot of really weird religions were created and all that kind of stuff. And then there was the Silent Era, where the gods sort of eventually reached a truce at the end of it and agreed on a ceasefire where they basically did nothing, you know, and so it kind of like reset the mortal plane. And then there was the golden era, which is basically the time before the unhinged era, which is where we are running this campaign and where all of the stuff that my world does takes place. And the golden era was, like I say in here, considered peaceful by comparison and saw much growth and advancement for mortals combined with relative inactivity between gods. So gods were largely still honoring their ceasefire during all this time, and they just sort of, it was basically just that, you know, mortals started to sort of relearn how to access magic and ethereal planes and all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of growth there, and then the unhinging happened and everything went straight to shit. But I feel like the mirror was created during the silent era, perhaps by one of the gods who sort of wanted to create an item, perhaps as a gift to the mortals, as a way for them to maybe avoid the mistakes that the gods had made. Yeah, I could see a sidekick being a good way to introduce a player to the game. You would just have to, like, I feel like if you were doing it that way, you would really want to have an easy out for the sidekick or a way to turn them into a character, because I feel like pretty quickly most players would catch on to the game and really want a full-fledged character, especially because level 1 characters of any class are pretty straightforward to handle if you actually start them at level 1, and I know that's not how a lot of campaigns work. A lot of people get impatient and start at like level 5 or whatever. But if you start at level 1, I feel like you almost do start as a sidekick. But at any rate, so creation. So this starts with the creation of the Mirror of Understanding. Say it was during the Silent Era that this object was created. Yeah, I feel like it was created by a god. I'm gonna go. No, Pantheon. Come on. I want to look at the Pantheon a little bit. This is, gosh, the search system. Oh, burn. I want the Egyptian Pantheon. But let's just try going here. Fantasy and historic D&D pantheons. Well, that, I guess, okay, I guess this is helpful. Just kind of want to look and see if there's a guy that seems like they would, a god or a god or a goddess that seems like they would be interested in that. So I feel like maybe one of these gods of knowledge, right? Like Denier here. The candle above an open eye. That seems pretty. Yeah, Denier seems pretty spot on. Yeah, Zuth, god of wizards. That's not quite it. Life trickery, knowledge. Oh, a lot of knowledges. Magic. Blank scroll. That would be an interesting one. True neutral. That actually would fit really well. God of divination and fate. That would be a really good one too. The moon. Knowledge and trickery is. It would be like knowledge and history, which I feel like I actually really like. Wait, where was it? Yeah, Ogama. I really like this one, the concept of a blank scroll. I really like the idea of like just a true neutral god saying like, hey, we need something that's like just like a pure unbiased way to look at history and understand the mistakes of the past. And I feel like that's what it would be. I like that. I mean, start at level 1 and only reach level 3. Yeah, it can take a while. It can take a while. Especially if you're a group that sort of takes your time with the role-playing type stuff. Wow, you guys are gonna start. You guys are like doing the D&D version of paying off a credit card with a credit card by the sounds of it. That's I'm sure that won't go wrong. I'm sure that'll never go wrong and everything will work out perfectly. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Ogama here. God comma, and I'm going to go ahead and go to our where is it? Pantheon here. True neutral Mechanus. We'll say that he exists within Mechanus here. And we're just gonna do a placeholder. Ogana? How did I Ogama. Oghama. Oghama. And then we'll just, again, as a placeholder, we can just copy the link to that page to our atlas here, and then we can do a god of knowledge. Felt as though the calling of the, well, let's see here. A god of knowledge, who was concerned with the eventual fate of the mortals, should the truce among gods, that's not an actual, I mean, we might turn that into a historical document. That'd be an interesting artifact, like the written truth, almost like it were the gods' version of like the Declaration of Independence or something. It'd be kind of interesting. But if we say, should the truce among gods ever come to an end, wanted to create some sort of objective way for the mortals to look into the folds of history, gain understanding, the mistakes made in a time before their existence. His intent was that such an object would ensure that the short-lived mortals did not make short-sighted mistakes that had already been made in the past. Boom. There we go. Something as simple as that. Like, I feel like that's just how the mirror of understanding came to be. Like, that's just it was good intentions. So let's see here. Man, ZB, if you're not already in the Discord, you should get in the Discord and like share those stories there. Cause you got some stories, man. You got some stories going on here. Took their mortality, huh? Okay, wow, that's not just like a monetary trade there, is it? You guys got some crazy stuff going on. So okay, good, you're already there. Yeah, you gotta share these stories in there, man. You gotta start posting those there. You gotta start putting them in there. Like that, or just like write your own book of all your stories at this rate. Holy cow. Holy cow. All right, let's see here. Yeah, okay, so we can go ahead and we already figured that out. Then was that such an object would ensure the short-lived mortals did not make short-sighted mistakes that had already been made in the past. Let's say, but as one might always, as one, there's a certain irony in it, because like you could learn this by looking in the mirror, but many people wouldn't need the mirror to understand this. But as one may understand, even without the assistance of the mirror, oftentimes plans with the best intentions do not go as intended. Let's see here. We can say times plans with the best intentions not go as intended. It did not take long before the power of the mirror. Actually, no, hold on. I want to explain what it is before we do that. Mirror worked off of the magic of let's see, the mirror yeah, worked off the magic of time, allowing one to view various different events in history through the glass. The more precise the time in history, the more clear the image would be. Gamma's idea was that this mirror could be used by leaders troubled by difficult decisions in order to avoid making decisions that have proven in the past to lead to suffering and destruction. And do, like, you know, say it like that. With we'll say Ogama, there we go. Ogama believed that with such insights available to them, mortals would make better decisions than the gods had made in the past era, and that prolonged war and let's say prolonged war and suffering in the world could be reduced and eventually eliminated from the world. So that's what the intention was. But we all know that it'll never go that way. Hey, tragic horror short stories have their place. There's an entire subreddit based on D&D horror stories. It's literally what it's called. You know, no, don't knock the power of the short story. Besides, have you read Don Quixote? Some of the best stories, some of the best long stories ever written are simply collections of episodic short stories. That's where the concept of a sitcom comes from. just telling lots of short stories. All right, let's see here. But as one may understand, even without the assistance of the mirror, oftentimes plans with the best intentions do not go as intended. Not take long before the power of the mirror began to be coveted by those who would misuse it. Let's see here. Hey, I appreciate you stopping at all. I appreciate you stopping by at all. It means a lot to me. Go get some sleep, you lunatic. Staying up this late just for little old me. No, I appreciate it. Glad you stopped by, for sure. Okay, so, but as one may understand, even without the assistance of the mirror, oftentimes plans with the best intentions do not go as intended. It take long before the power of the mirror began to be coveted by those who would use it. Those looking for the best routes, we'll say the best ways to increase personal wealth or widen their pool of influence, began seeking the advice of the mirror. We'll say even among those who would choose not to use the mirror at all. The desire to control the object and who could use it was often too strong of a temptation to ignore. A series of thefts and small skirmishes between wealthy and powerful elites. Series of thefts and small skirmishes between wealthy and powerful elites took place over a short period of time, and it was soon understood by those who did hold noble intentions. It's understood by those who did hold noble intentions that this mirror could not be left to the devices of mortals. I don't want to say it exactly like that. To the whims of mortals is what we should say. To the whims of mortals for use. Let's see it. We'll say international, or not international. That's not exactly right. We'll say council comprised of representatives. The council comprises representatives from a multitude of races, nations, and religions came together one day and discussed the need to protect this wondrous object. While all agreed that, well, let's see, what would that council agree to? Like, what would be something that everyone would agree to? Like, I feel like destroying it would certainly not be. I think it's easy enough to see why this thing would still exist. Because I think it's 100% true that there would be a lot of people that would not want to see this thing destroyed. Because even with the most noble intentions, right, something of this much power, it would just be, I just don't know that there would be any entire group where everyone would agree that destroying it is the way to go. I think there would always be a few holdouts that would say, like, no, we should keep this because it can be used for good, right? And if this council is looking for something that is the most agreeable to everyone, I feel like ultimately destroying it would be out. So I do think that it would exist. But would the council, I guess it's like they would all agree that it needed to be protected, but what would the agreement on, like, who should protect it and how should it be protected would be an important thing. I almost feel like, I think I mean, not to copy and paste too much existing, lores and media and stuff like that, but I think the best thing, or at least what would be a really good setup, it would be a decent logic that any player could track and agree with and be like, oh, that makes sense on how this came to be, right? Even if they don't, agree with it on a personal level, in the sense of, oh, I would have made the same decision. Even if they don't agree with it in that sense, they would, I feel like it's got the internal logic that is necessary enough for people to suspend disbelief on it. Oh, excuse me. I think what we could do is just take the Harry Potter Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone, depending on your nationality there. I think we could take that approach and assume that, every member of the council would somehow take part in protecting this. And what I think is fun about that is that means we could set up this place, have all kinds of challenges and puzzles and enemies and dangers and locks and just all kinds of things that would interestingly incorporate like cultures and stuff from around this fictional world, right? We could include something that's like a uniquely tabaxi challenge, or a uniquely, a uniquely elven challenge or something like that. Or you could have like things that were like clearly influenced by worshipers of this god or that god, right? Or people, or something that was clearly influenced by people who lived in the north or people who lived in the south, right? Like you could come up with like some really cool, fun, super diverse things, and that would be such a fun final chapter for players, because you could incorporate such a wide variety of things. And I think that serves really well for this campaign now that I'm thinking about it. I think that would serve this campaign really, really well, because our players have encountered such a diverse set of places and challenges in this campaign. And there'll be even more of them. Usually they start off in the plains, but then they eventually travel to mountaintops to interact with giants. They then travel underground, under mountains, to deal with drow and dwarven history. They're going to a city right now that was, the city in and of itself was known as sort of a melting pot, because it served as a connector for a lot of other places, and just sort of like this centralized location, usually for a lot of other cultures and people and everything. And then eventually they're going to be going into a forest with drow and then elven history. So it's like we're already giving our players such a diverse set of lore and characters and enemies to interact with and play with, that setting this hall up to incorporate that kind of stuff could be a really interesting and thematic capstone for our campaign, right? Because we could have half of it just be all just like callbacks to stuff that they've already encountered, right? So it's like there was at one point in time they were going through they were going through dwarven tunnels to get to the vaults. So it's like we design a series of halls and rooms that are designed to look exactly like those tunnels that they already were exploring. Oh, excuse me. Right, so it's like there's a callback and there's familiarity, and it's like, hey, we can give that to them and use that as a way, for them to have some familiarity, but then there's like a unique thing that goes after it, right? Or eventually there is a place that, like, when they're in the elven city, right, there's going to be all kinds of elven themed puzzles and places and stuff. So it's like we can have a place that was designed by elves to have the same aesthetic and stuff like that. So it's like we could do that. I really like that idea. I like that idea. I like that. It's a real Chekhov's gun approach to things, right? And we can really plant a lot of things in there that would be super interesting. Super interesting, and like we could actually go back and retroactively put some things in various parts of this campaign that we can then eventually use later to make some of these callbacks. I'm into it. I like this idea. I think this works. And I think that's the most important part. Like, is it 100% realistic? I mean, that's kind of out the window, because we're talking about like D&D fantasy imagination land, right? Like that. So is it realistic? No. But does it thematically serve a purpose while also providing a whole lot of stuff that we can use for our campaign as we go? Oh yeah, it does. And I feel like that's something that, if you have an attentive group of players, even if they're not the most attentive group of players, like, it'll be such an obvious series of like eventual callbacks that I think it would be really fun for players to suddenly start seeing some familiarity from old places they've explored. Yeah, I think that works. I think that works really well. I'm gonna do it. You can't stop me. It's my thing. I'm writing it. Yeah, so Okay, so yeah, a council comprised of representatives from from a multitude of races, nations, and religions came together one day and discussed the need to protect this wondrous object. All agreed that the mirror was of too much value and potential to be destroyed. It was also agreed that drastic protection should be drastic protective measures should be implemented. We'll say very little discussion was needed to reach an agreement that the best way would be for representatives. Why am I just incapable of spelling the word representatives today? My goodness. Very little discussion was needed to reach an agreement that the best way would be for representatives as diverse as those comprising the council itself. To each play a small role in creating a larger set of defenses to guard this mirror. Construction of the Hall of Wisdom soon commenced. Many years were spent perfecting the building as coordination between, we'll say, dozens. Yeah, coordination between dozens of different contributors was necessary for effective. Let's see. It was necessary if the building was to accomplish the goal of protecting this mirror. Let's see here. We'll say each of the contributors carefully designed their portion of the security. During the so each of the contributors carefully designed their portion of the security, incorporating in their own ways. Let's see. Let's just try and break that up. It's gonna get to a very clunky sentence if I try to say everything I'm trying to say in that one sentence. Then all were tasked with incorporating in their own ways two key elements. A lesson in the history of the party they represented, to demonstrate their value and importance, and then some sort of challenge that could only be overcome if the lesson had been well learned, right? Because there it is. Because the idea is that they want to make sure that only those who are qualified could have access to this mirror of knowledge, and only someone who's the only person. Yeah, the theory is the only person who could be qualified is a person who understands. Oh, excuse me. Understands and demonstrates like respect for each of these cultures, right? Because the problem they're trying to solve is that people were misusing the knowledge in order to place their chosen, their chosen cause, whether it's like a racial thing, whether it's a religious thing, or whatever, right? It's trying to prevent people who have put their own cause ahead of any other cause from having easy access to this, right? So like the idea is that one who internalizes the idea that all life on the planet is valuable would have an easy time getting to this, because like the idea is that someone with those internalized beliefs is not someone who would take the knowledge and the power of the mirror lightly, whereas someone who was incapable of internalizing those wouldn't be able to have access, because they wouldn't be able to demonstrate that they were not going to abuse the powers of the mirror, is the idea, which is again flawed and imperfect. But like I think what we're kind of discovering is that the whole concept of this mirror is a flawed and imperfect one, which is what I think would make it really fun to give players this full picture of the situation and sort of ask them to think more deeply than what the initial situation is, which is Dragon want mirror, help Dragon get that, and Dragon will give something to you, right? Like the idea is that this will turn into a place that maybe the players will question, like, should we just hand over the power to control this place to just like some dragon? Like, can we trust this one dragon more than anyone else? Is that actually a reasonable assumption, or are we just making one huge mistake, right? Like that's the idea, is to try and get our players to explore that. At least that's what I feel like intention here is, and well, I'm the one writing it, so I could decide that. So, buckle up, because we're going on that ride. Because yeah, it's such a complicated idea, right? If you could have one shot, one opportunity. Sorry, I'm adjusting my blanket. I've set up. I have this heated blanket, and I've set it up and kind of hitched it up to my chair here, so that way the chair is basically just an entire heated chair. And it's one of the and I'm gonna go ahead and pat myself on the back here and say it's one of the most brilliant ideas I've ever had. Because my buns is toasty, and my back is relaxed, and in general I'm at a comfortable temperature despite the fact that I'm always cold. It was the right decision. It was the right move. Problem is, because it's not like actually really secured except for just in the band of like my little headrest pillow that came with the chair, it slides down as I adjust my booty while I'm sitting, so I need to adjust it from time to time. So if I'm wiggling in such a way that it looks like I'm picking a wedgie, there's still like a 20% chance that that's what's happening, but most likely I'm adjusting the blanket underneath. So, just keep that in mind, because I'm sure everyone was asking themselves and super concerned with the situation. Anyway. Yeah, I like this idea. I think there'll be a lot of creative challenges when it comes time to write the details of this tower and turn it into like a final mega dungeon for our players to explore. I think there'll be a lot of challenges in figuring out how to translate a cultural lesson into kill big giant monster. I think that will certainly be a challenge, but I am into it. It's a challenge that I like, and it's like half the reason why I'm into this, because I love creative writing and I love trying to sort of come up with these solutions to these creative problems. That image had not entered into your mind. Well, you're welcome then for providing it. That's You know, that's for free right there. That's a bonus. That's a follower bonus right there. That's you know, take that one with you. Anyways, so stupid. Yeah, I think this is good. I really like this place. I can feel myself growing attached to this place, and for me, that's always a good sign. Like I find that the more attached I am to something that I create, the better it comes across to players, just because I then have that sort of passion that drives and entertains players, and makes things fun for them to be passionate about. Um, so I think we're heading in a good direction here. Um, and like I say, I think one of the important things is that this sets up a lot of options for us to get really, really fun and diverse and unique with this. Like, we're not gonna be, because one of the problems, you know, and here's one of the reasons that this really excites me, because on the surface, we're creating for our final mega dungeon here just like a singular temple, right? So it's like, imagine if we had a mega dungeon that was all just one theme, right? Like, imagine if you're playing, I don't know, oh, excuse me, Legend of Zelda, and you get to the final castle to try and get your way to whatever the final Ganon battle is going to be based on whatever, you know, iteration of Zelda you're playing. Imagine you get there, and then you get to the castle, and every room is designed to be castle ruins with one of 5 enemy types roaming around. And then imagine if you had to do 10 entire floors of that to make an entire mega dungeon tower type of situation. Right? Imagine if you had to get through that. Like, that would be, even with the biggest imagination for the sake of roleplay in the world, that would get repetitive. Excuse me. It would get repetitive and tiring. Right? And so that's a perpetual challenge. And like, already we're only at like chapter 6 of our campaign, right? And already I'm struggling with that, trying to figure out how I can, within a single location, within a single dungeon, right, a single chapter, make things super diverse. And, you know, I'm starting to incorporate a lot of ideas of like, okay, well, we'll break this dungeon into 3 parts. There's the, you know, walking through the mountains to get to it. There's the being in the underground tunnels. And then there's the forest that happens when you leave the tunnels, right? So it's like I'm already finding excuses to mix things up, right? Like with our current one, the chapter that we're working on, right, where they're in the city, like, it'd be so boring if everything was just city, which is why one of them, you know, one of the maps is a temple, one of the maps is a marketplace, and one of the maps will be a rich person's home, and then another one will be like a hedge maze type of place, right? So it's like, already, you know, I'm trying to find different ways to maximize the diversity of locations that players are exploring within each chapter, so that each chapter can kind of be a self-contained part of the overall campaign, to sort of take the place as of being just like a singular monotonous mega dungeon, right? And so it's like, for this one, like, this will kind of give us a built-in excuse to just like have each segment, we can break it into 10 segments, right? And it's like each segment will represent 1 or 2 different, you know, like I say, cultures, races, regionalities, religions, excuse me, whatever we want to, you know, however we want to break it up and distribute these things. We've got a built-in excuse to really explore a lot of those things, which from a gameplay standpoint, I think going to be a really good move that I'm not going to regret when the time comes to start filling this in. So I think this is really good, and I'm really happy with this. Yeah. So okay, so I still want to put a bit more history. We're not done with the history. I'm just sitting here tooting my own horn about the fact that I like what I've written so far. But like, you know, I mean, honestly though, like, this is something that I definitely have to work with, and I have people in my life who, you know, kind of like, you know, it's not like actually scolding me, but like scold me in life about the fact that I don't I don't talk up myself enough, right? And that sounds like a weird thing. It's like you're just not arrogant enough, right? You know, it's such a weird thing, but I think there's a good point that can be well taken there, in that, like, if you do something good, if you accomplish something, you know, you come up with something that you're proud with, you make something that you're proud with, like, be proud of that. You know, be happy about that. I've written something here. It's not a ton of stuff, but I've written something that I'm excited about and is gonna be fun to use. Like, I'm gonna let myself feel good about that, right? Because I just created something from nothing, and that's pretty cool, right? So I don't know. Don't be like natural me and constantly talk down on yourself to the point that you get depressed and even sometimes, you know, in the past, suicidal in your life. Don't be like that version of me. Be like the version of me who is like learning the lessons of those who support him, you know, and learn to appreciate your accomplishment. So I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna be real happy about what we made so far, and I'm not gonna be embarrassed about it. So take that. Anyway, let's keep that momentum going, right? Keep it going too. That's the other thing. That's the other thing with writing too. Like, once you get something down, like be happy with that, and then like take that and run with it. When you get something that you're excited and passionate and motivated about, like, take it and run with it. Because writer's block is such a real thing. Like, it's such a real thing, you know. And the best advice I can ever give is, like, don't assume that like inspiration doesn't beget action. Action begets inspiration. I say that all the time, you know, but it's like, start writing. Just start writing, because eventually you'll go from, you know, we started with having no idea what was going on in this place, and suddenly now I've got a really clear idea and I'm ready to keep going. And that's because I just started writing random stuff. I was just like, well, I feel like this started in this place, so let's just write a sentence about that. Oh, and if it started in that place, maybe it was created by this person. Let's write a sentence about that. If it was created by that person, maybe they did it for this reason, right? And it just kind of builds until you eventually have something that's really cool. And you can feel good about it. So I don't know why I'm rambling about this. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, I guess, but I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about a lot. It's something that I think about a lot, just in general. You know, the fact that I feel like a lot of people these days can be very harsh on themselves. And while it's good to be humble, not to the point of self-destruction. And I know I toe that line a lot. So, you know, watch my journey to being a more confident and comfortable individual, and, you know, learn from it, and try to do the same for yourself. You know, let's all build each other and ourselves up, right? I don't know. What else do I want to write about this place? Let's see here. A lesson in the history of the party they represented to demonstrate their value and importance, and then some sort of challenge that could only be overcome if the lesson had been well learned. For many, creating such an intricate system took much time and effort, but it was agreed that doing it right was more important than doing it fast. Eventually, the hull was completed. It served as not only a protective shell to one of as not only a protective shell to one of the most coveted artifacts in the world, but as a time capsule or museum of various cultures, the way they were. Well, we'll say various cultures as they were in that time of history. In this way, the hall swiftly came to be seen as a as a near holy location worth reverence and admiration. It even began to serve as a place of pilgrimage. Pilgrimage? Is that? Yeah, there we go. Just one M. Place of pilgrimage for those seeking to test their own moral compass. A small religion of sorts even formed around such journeys. Journeys. Oh, no, I had it right the first time. Journeys. In that many would seek to overcome these challenges and then treat the mirror itself as the final challenge, in which those who strove to be truly worthy of wisdom and respect. I'm just totally riffing this as we go here. This is just sort of an idea that's blooming as I'm writing it. Small religion of sorts even formed around such journeys, and that many would seek to overcome these challenges and then treat the mirror itself as the final challenge. I've got a lot of in whiches there. Challenge, comma. That challenge being that only a truly enlightened being would choose not to gaze upon the mirror, even if they had earned the privilege. Privilege? Is that it? Privilege? I don't know, man. My brain's what is this? Privilege? And the privilege. There it is. As you can tell, I'm getting to that point where it's like, yeah, we're gonna want to call it a writing stream soon because my brain's turning into goo. I can't spell basic words. Assuming I could spell them properly in the first place. Let's see here. Not to gaze upon, even if they had earned the privilege. Let's see. We'll say, thus, the hall became a location of fame all through Zaoria. Zaoria. Their fingers are also turning into mush. It just happens. It just happens after a certain point. It's like, oh boy, the hands and the brain are struggling. That's how it goes. If you're trying to write stuff, if you're trying to be a DM who writes homebrew stuff or just any sort of writer, give yourself permission to eventually, reach, maybe we'll call it writer's mush, where eventually your ability to maintain coherent thought and write actually like correct sentences diminishes. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. I've noticed it over the years. It's irritating, right? Because you might still have ideas that you want to explore, but after a certain point, you just can't convey them the way you meant to. Anyway, we'll say things continued as such through much of the golden era. However, eventually a time came when those who would have historically sought out the advice of the mirror began to see the challenges as too much of a burden. Instead, they returned to the age-old method of mistakenly assuming they knew enough to make best decision in any scenario. Well, actually, we can even say some even exist who feel as though this ties into the unhinging, in that the gods were displeased with the hubris of the mortals and sent the unhinging to punish them. In truth, that's not what happened. But we'll go ahead and leave that one hanging because I think that's fun. That's kind of fun flavor there. So when the unhinging occurred and creatures of every form of evil began roaming the lands, seeking out whatever power they could find among the mortal plane. It was swiftly understood that the hall must be locked up, and that none should have access to the mirror until the horrors of the unhinging were dead and gone. Now, here's something that I feel like I have written a bit of history of, and so we may need to converge a few things or even change some things, but let's check out information about it in. Let's see. I could have sworn I'd written some stuff about all of this beforehand. Maybe not. Factions, perhaps? Oh. Church of the Purified? Oh, okay, yeah, that was... Oh, that's a different... That's an older thing. Did I put anything in here? Neonins weren't really part of it. There. The Hall of Wisdom. Oh, yeah. Here we go. I did have some stuff here. Alright. So I did have some older stuff in here. How about this? Like, I mean, I guess it just goes to show that it was good that we're revisiting, because I don't have a whole lot of recollection of this at all. During the early days of the Golden Era, after the gods initiated and imposed peace for the sake of the mortal creatures, collective leaders within the mortal realm decided to form a council of wisdom that could serve as an oversight mechanism to help ensure that the present activities. So that's kind of the same. It's just that the council was then formed over the mirror. So it was often disliked. There's potential damage. Even so, most respected their judgments. And over the years, however, it became clear to this council that more impartial element. Okay, so it was what I had before was that the council had created the mirror. I like the newer one a little bit better. So I'm not gonna worry about that. What most concretely place exists within Golden Winds? Yeah, when the hall was constructed during the Golden Era. Change that a little bit. That's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and immediately say, Hall of Wisdom gonna put old. I don't know that I want to delete it because I may come back to some of this stuff. But let's see here. Impose peace for the sake of the mortal creatures, collective leaders of the mortal. I think this is the part that I was thinking of. So this current iteration met immediately to discuss many things, including the fates, powerful items such as the mirror. It was agreed that the mirror should be locked away, gotten about to avoid. Yeah. Took the lock. Okay, yeah. To this day, the keys remain hidden in the hall. Yeah, that was the part that I was looking for. Yeah, and so we're gonna keep that. So a lot of this stuff, I think I'm gonna just go ahead and scrap because I hadn't thought about it in ages and I hadn't been using it. I'm more excited about the way I have this stuff written right now. So I'm gonna stick with the new stuff for now. But I am going to just add a little blip. We'll say 4 representatives were selected to be the guardians of the keys. Keys to the hall. Way the hall had been constructed, 4 doors were available as entrances to the hall. Actually, no. You know what? That's not true. That's not how I want to do this. Hall. The front door to the hall was composed of a single door with 4 different locks. Each lock had its own key and was protected by unique magic to ensure that even the most powerfully magic creatures could not gain access without all 4 keys. And we'll say when these guardians were selected, each was tasked with the responsibility of protecting the key in whatever way they felt was best in the game, whatever they felt best, and then never telling another soul about what they did with the key. Largely the rules were honored and the keys disappeared, along with any common knowledge that such a place even existed. But all things leave a trace, and all that is lost may one day be found. The keys remain, as do those who have discovered the hall and the secrets contained within. We'll say after millennia, after many millennia, there are none who know what is inside the hall, or if anything that was once there is still there in its same form. But there are those who have suspicions and would, let's see, it would say, there are those who have suspicions and would go to great lengths to have those suspicions indulged. I think we can just leave it at that. Leave it at that, because then after that point in time, we're kind of transitioning to turning it into a dungeon for our players to play with. I think that's a good history. I actually really like that history. Like I said, I think it sets it up to really be a cool, fun, unique, diverse dungeon for our players to explore when the time comes. I think that's really good. I'm really happy with that. If I'm perfectly honest, I'm really happy with that. Yeah, heck yeah. I'm into it. I'm really into it. Cool. And like, that could not have been more perfect timing, because I'm looking at our time and it's like 5 minutes until 1:30 here, which is when I when I normally take a bit of a break and switch over to doing some gaming. So I think I'm gonna do exactly that. So I'm gonna switch this over to just chatting here, so we can just do a little bit of housekeeping before I take my break and head over to gaming. So thank you so much to everyone for stopping by. First and foremost, appreciate you guys. If you want to see more writing, first off, you can always check all the VODs of all of my writing streams. I put all of them on my YouTube channel. You can find that Enviroboy on YouTube. So you can check all of that stuff out there. You can go back and see anything that I've written. There's a whole lot of it. There. So you know, go check that out at some point. Definitely do that. If you want to see more of me live, later this week I should be back. My usual streaming schedule is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I stream from 11:30. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time Zone to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time Zone is when I do my writing, and then 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time Zone is when we do video gaming. So you can come check me out at those times. You can hang out, watch me write, watch me game, whatever suits your fancy, whatever suits your fancy. You can check it out. Yeah, if you wanna be involved, if you want to be connected outside of the stream times, you can always get connected with my Discord. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I got a Discord server. It's a great place to talk about D&D stuff. Share all your homebrew stuff there. It's a really good place to share all that stuff if you want to get my thoughts on stuff, because I try to interact with people and read the stories, and it's a lot easier to do it there, because then I can, you know, take my time and read it rather than trying to just like frantically do it before it disappears in chat or something like that. But yeah, get connected there. I also do announcements about when I'm going live, you know, what my schedule is going to be, all that kind of stuff. It's a great place. Great place, if I do say so myself. You can also find me on Twitter, Envira Streams on Twitter. I do, again, announcements about when I'm going live and all that stuff. You know, sometimes I share random disjointed thoughts about random stuff there. So, you know, if that's your jam, go check me out there. And then I also have an Instagram, Enviroboy Streams. You can find me there. I like to put a lot of like little clips about other cool things in my life, my cat, rock climbing, kickboxing, stuff like that. So, you know, find me at all those places. Whatever. Pick your poison. Pick your poison. Go check me out there. But yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got for now. So I'm gonna take a short break. Take care of a few things. I'll leave you here with some music for now. But at a certain point in time, there'll be a bit of a hiccup as we switch over for the sake of the VODs and everything. And I'm going to get back this week. I'm going to get back to playing some various games. Last week was all Elden Ring because I finally got it and was obsessed with it. And we are continuing Elden Ring, but not today. Today, I want to continue my run-through of all of the Halo campaigns. So when you come back, we're going to go ahead and start up Halo 3, and we're going to dive into that one. It's going to be a good time. So yeah. So again, thank you so much for stopping by. Go ahead and sit tight. If you wanna hang out, you can sit tight and see what's going on there. Or if you're just here for the writing, then, you know, hopefully I'll catch you later this week. Either way, I'll be back soon. I'll see you soon. So yeah, catch you cats on the flip side, and I'll be back shortly.